I think people really misunderstand what the ego is, like the concept of having an ego. Like, what are you without an ego? You're just a shell of a person without an ego. You're just a husk. You're lifeless. You derive your motivations and your aspirations. That all comes from your ego. That sources from your ego. Everything in life that you want, that you desire, that you get out and work for, it all comes from your ego. What are you without an ego? Nothing. Nothing. In sports, you have to have an ego. If you're out on the football field and you don't have an ego, you're just like, oh, okay, if this team blows us out, that's fine. Who cares? Like, huh? No, don't you want to win? Don't you have a sense of competition? Because you don't have that without an ego. Right? I mean, people kind of blow it out of proportion. Oh, the guy has such a big ego. Oh, no. Maybe he just wants to win. Right? There's people with an ego and there's people with a big ego. And it's not that fine of a line per se. The guy with a big ego is a guy who always has something to prove. He's always on edge. He feels like everybody is out to get him. Kind of insecure. Can never really have a sense of friendliness. It's just constant competition. And when you're training with him, he's always going 100%. He's like an asshole with it. If he loses, he gets all pissy. Like a good example of this is like gym bros who try jiu-jitsu and think that just because they can fucking bench however many pounds, they're going to steamroll everybody on the mats. No, you're going to get your ass kicked by a fucking 100-pound noodle 10-year-old who simply has been training longer than you, right? That might be a bit of an exaggeration, but it's the truth. It's the truth. Like when I first started wrestling, I was kind of an ignorant asshole, and I was like, oh well, I'm a pretty strong guy. I shouldn't have too much trouble. And I did, obviously, because I didn't know the technique, and I was very ignorant because I thought that just because I had muscle, I'd be doing fine. No, dude, you don't even know how to fucking take a shot. You don't know how to sprawl. You don't even know the mechanics of a double or a single just because you have muscle. What? No, you're not gonna do shit. So that's the difference. But you need to have an ego, right? You need to have one because you're nothing without it. There's no sense of competition. I remember back in the day when I was training karate, I was like, oh, maybe my ego is too big. People tell me I have a big ego, so maybe I just shouldn't have an ego. So I would just let everybody kick my ass, and I would just try not to get upset over it because if I'm getting upset over losing, my ego is too big or whatever. Dude, no, what? No. There's a big difference. There's the people who care. There's people who have a sense of competition. And there's the people with a huge ego and constantly blow things out of proportion when they lose. And they start throwing fucking hissy fits and, crying. Look, you need to lose sometimes. Because I know it's such a huge platitude at this point. It's the most cliched platitude known to man. But it's so true. That from your losses come your greatest victories, or your greatest lessons, however you want to word the quote. It's so true. Because then you know what to work on. If you get caught in an armbar in a jiu-jitsu tournament, you're like, all right, it's time to put the emphasis on drilling armbar escapes. You know what I mean? If you just win all the time, you're not really learning anything. All you're learning is that you're good, which is all well and good, but you want to progress. You don't want to stagnate and stay the same. So, yeah, have an ego, dude. Have an ego. Don't have a huge one, but have an ego. You need it. What are you without a sense of competition? You just want to stay the same the entire time. You don't want to progress. You just want to be a fucking wet noodle your entire life. Because that's the guy without an ego. That's the guy without a sense of competition. He's just like, oh, whatever life takes me, it takes me. He's like the overly zen guy who just lets everybody walk over him. You don't want to be that guy. But you also don't want to be a raging asshole, You also don't want to fucking have something to prove 24/7 and, go ham and be the most wiry fucker known to man and, muscle everything on the mats and shit like that. No, you don't want to be that. But people don't recognize the difference. They don't recognize the difference. You know what I mean? There's a huge difference between being confident and being cocky. You know, sometimes they can blend. For me, I don't know sometimes whether people could describe me as confident or cocky. I don't know, because I don't really know how like a third party sees me as. You know, everybody has a different perception of who I am, who Christian is. You know what I mean? My perception is definitely different from the guy down the hall who's never talked to me, who just sees me walking around. Like, I don't know. I wonder what he thinks of me. You know? Like, everybody has a different perception. You know? My close family know me way differently than some random dude I got in a fight with online, like a year back or whatever the fuck. You know, just throwing out examples here. But it also brings in the point that, like, you need to have stakes. There should be stakes. Not all the time, but you want to have stakes. I have a tournament coming up in April for kickboxing. Hell yeah. I love that because it adds stakes. You know, it's not just training for the hell of training. It's training because I want to win. There comes in the ego. When I'm training right now, I'm thinking that there's an imaginary guy right next to me who's holding his plank for 20 seconds longer than I am, or squatting for 5 more reps. I don't want this guy to outtrain me. I want to make sure I'm training way harder than the guy I'm about to fight in 3 months or whatever. So I got to do extra work, and I got to make sure that I'm putting in 100%. So I don't want to lose, because I have an ego. I don't want to lose the competition. I want to train hard and I want to win. Because who the fuck wants to lose? Losers. Right? I mean, nobody really wants to lose. But if you don't have the drive to win, then yeah, you're a loser. And you're going to lose. If you don't think you're going to win, you're going to lose. That's how it goes. If you go in there with any doubt in your mind, you're most likely going to lose. So that's why it's fun to compete and have stakes. Right? Like powerlifters, like they're always like, oh, I'm 10 weeks out, you know, like they're going to be competing. So they want to make sure that they're training hard, that they're eating well, that they're sleeping well, because there are stakes. It's not just training for the sake of training. They have stakes. They want to win. So it's fun. I have 3 months to work my ass off and get so much better than I am right now, so I can win. And it's fun for me because there's something to look forward to. And there's a sense of progression that is like it's not just, oh, I want to progress because it's fun. Well, because it is fun to progress, but it's more of like an urgent sense of progression. Like, it's like, I want to progress and do this and do that, get my mile time up, get my squat up, get my shoulder endurance up, work on my abs, because there's like a sense of urgency. There's a sense of like, I want to win. I don't want to lose. You know, I don't even know why I'm listing all fucking lifting shit, because it's a kickboxing tournament. I should be talking about kickboxing. But I don't know. The lines have been blurred over the years so much that they're now just like kind of interchangeable, you know? But I mean, that brings up the point that I really need to start working on more MMA. You know, like I always struggle between which one I'm focusing on. You know what I mean? It's like, which entity am I focusing on? Am I focusing on MMA right now, or am I focusing on lifting? Because obviously a lot of the shit I do in the weight room carries over to MMA, but not all of it. Cable lateral raises to make yourself look wider for vanity's sake and aesthetics or whatever. Like, that's not doing shit for your fighting capabilities. It's doing nothing. You know, so it's like, what are you going to focus on? What is the end goal right now? You know, what is important right now? That's what I have to figure out. And the answer is pretty simple. If I want to win a kickboxing tournament, I got to train more kickboxing, you know. But at the same time, I need to, it's not as simple. Like, I need to map it out a bit more and give myself a little roadmap. And, you know, obviously my coach will give me a training regimen. But besides that, it's like, what else am I doing? You know? If he's telling me to run 5 miles a day, that takes like, I don't know, like 45 minutes out of my day. What else am I doing in the other 23 hours and 15 minutes? You know what I mean? Like, what else is going on? But, yeah, good talk. See you guys later.